oil, and he was showing it to me, and was pretty excited about it. And then this moth flew into the painting, and it got stuck in the thick oil paint, and it started like flapping around, and it made this big spiral, you know, this sort of this death of this moth. And I was thinking that he would take it off and then repaint it and stuff, but he fell in love with it. He said, "This is great," you know. And so from that day on, he started like putting little bugs and stuff in his paintings.
I had a lot of things that I was, you know, collecting. It isn't, you know, morbid to me. It's a texture, pure and simple.
I had about 5 cats, and they would catch these little mice. And sometimes they would catch them and they would die, but they, you know, after they played with them, but they'd be in perfect condition. So David took one of these mice and he took some polyester resin and glued it to a beautiful blue willow china plate. And then I had a piece of fly paper hanging, and there was millions of flies, and they would sort of get onto the paper, and he started like collecting these flies, and someone would die at the windows, you know, for just, I guess, heart attacks and stuff, and he started putting them in a plastic bag. So he had a big bag of dead flies that he was thinking he'd put on his paintings, you know, when he got back to Philadelphia. So he packed all this stuff up after a week, flew back to Philadelphia, but as luck would have it, they lost his suitcase in transit. He was anxious to get back to his house. He went on home, then he called the airport and said, "Look, my bag didn't come in. Do you think you could help me find it?" And this woman on the other end of the phone said, "Well, you describe any of the contents which might make us believe it was yours." And he said, "Well, there's a plate with a dead mouse on it, and then there's a big plastic bag full of dead flies." And she started laughing, thinking this guy's got a wicked sense of humor. But when she realized that what he was saying was like true, she hung up, and he said about 20 minutes later, this bag arrived at the door, and he just hears the wheels of the car like screeching off. You know? They didn't want to have anything to do with him. Because Philadelphia's got some weird people in it. And they thought that he might be one of them, not knowing how normal David is. I know that David, when he was not making films, he's painting, and you don't need a crew. You don't need a sound crew. You don't need caterers and craft service and camera and film and everything that costs you money. And David always painted with house paint and roofing tar and cotton and sort of like anything he could find. He still does.
He wanted his paintings to move, is really what it came out of. He wanted his paintings to do more. He wanted them to make sounds. He wanted them to move.
In 1967, I made my first film, which was more of a moving painting than a film.
And he projected it onto the screen, these heads that he animated, which went through all these contortions, and he had little birthday candles stuck on the canvas that he was using, and he lit them, and there was all this these streaks of burning, and then at the very end, all these heads vomited, and that was the end, and then it played over and over again. You know, it was a 1-minute film.
Somebody saw that film and commissioned me to make a similar type of thing that would be like a painting you could turn on and run for a while and then turn off. So after working on this thing for a couple of months and it didn't work, the man who commissioned it said, "Just take the rest of the money and do whatever you want."
I was home for Christmas, and I slept in the same room with my niece, who I think was about 6. And she had a dream in the middle of the night, a nightmare that and it woke me up. And she was just, this is my niece Sarah, she was just jumping around in bed, reciting the alphabet. A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G.
A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C.
I was telling David about this, and his eyes just got as big as saucers. You know, I thought it was an interesting story, but to him right away, this was material.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
He's going to paint the house black, okay, and which he did.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
Then he set up on the second floor, the room that where he shot the scene in the alphabet, which I'm in, where I'm bouncing around the bed.
Now I've said my ABCs. Tell me what you think of me.
The films that I really participated in were the first three.
And that film and a script got me an independent filmmakers grant from the American Film Institute, which was brand new at that time. And that was another thing that changed everything all at once.
He got $5,000, and he again proceeded to paint the inside of the house black.
I wanted to have the rooms black so that you'd see, you know, what was there and not look at the walls.
I was working on films as an art director, and I came back and checked up on my friend David, and he was living at the stables illegally at the American Film Institute.
Well, this is a place where Jack scared Catherine halfway to death one night because he was waiting right around this corner here, and you came through in the Volkswagen, and he leapt out at you. But this
that took a few years off my life.
makes a certain sound when you drive over it. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember that sound? You could always tell when someone was coming in.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Of course, we were never supposed to be here.
Oh my God.
I think that's why I stopped.
Where was the little house?
Right here.
We built it here?
Right here.
Right here.
That was the door, was right there.
No, that wasn't the door, Catherine. The door was right in here.
You're late, Henry.
I didn't know if you wanted me to come or not. Where have you been? You never come around anymore.
Dinner's almost ready. Come on in.
The planet was out here, and you were out here, Jack, right here.
I was.
Yeah. And it was the night I freaked out, I think, because Fred was taking hair.
It was taking a while because it was very
Yeah.
complicated. Speaking of hair, this right here, I stood and did this, but
That's right. Well, we could go up. We'll go up to the where the hair was done by Charlotte and Catherine. The very first night, it was up here in the hayloft. Uh-oh. This is really bad. This is really bad.
Unsafe. Hell, it was unsafe when we were in here.
We could just kick it in. That would. For 5 years, this was a different world, you know, at least to us. There was Eraserhead, and it was once you got into the mood of it, it wasn't any place that it really existed. It was this Eraserhead world, and it had its own mood, and you could picture the outside world outside the buildings. They were completely different than what was really here. That's our food room right there. And look, they've taken the whole balcony apart.
Yeah.
Oh, man, the food room.
We grew our own potatoes up there. In our balcony.
You know, we started off having
That's right, we did.
We grew our own potatoes right up there in the balcony. of the
Jack had a
food room.
potato farm.
And
They were the size of your
when we
little fingernail.
when we harvested them, the potatoes were about the size of little pinto beans. They were little bitty potatoes, pea-taters. You know, little bitty potatoes, but a bunch of them. You know, we took them home and
Did you fry them up?
we made little bitty French fries.
Remember we were just going to have snacks?
Well, we normally did about one shot a night.
Yeah.
And both Fred and Herb were painstaking. And we found our what do you call it, rhythm. You know, like after a film's going for a couple of years, you sort of find your rhythm. And it kind of slowed down to 1 or 2 shots a night, depending on, like a master shot would definitely be lighting all night. And Jack and I would rehearse every move. Jack was like the most expert actor I've ever worked with. He would go into minute detail on arm move.
This was that big dolly track.
That's where the planet was, right there. And
This
we
was
had
that Elmac on the dolly.
all it was straight in, Catherine. It was straight in.
I was there all day, and pulling levers, and it was hard work. So he started like painting this plastic stuff on my face and making sores because he asked me to play a man in the planet. It looked great, but it wasn't removable. I sort of did a combination of soaking and scraping and shaving, and I think about 3 days later, my face was clean shaven and free of all the makeup of that film.
Never talk about the baby, ever.
Was baby was born here?
Nearby.
But this is where the baby, where all the scenes were shot.
Mm-hmm, right upstairs here.
I remember getting very angry with the baby when it spit at me.
And it shows, too.
Remember when Jan was about 3, she would come over and ask if she could play with the baby, and you'd say, yeah, but don't touch it?
Spike has a special place in my heart, very definitely. Whether it's because of my own feelings of Spike sort of representing the nightmare my father thought parenthood would be at that point, or who knows, but just I think there's a very sort of sweet elephant man type quality to the baby.
Spike, yeah. Jack named him Spike.
Jack named him Spike.
We had to change that baby.
Yeah. Well, it rose for a while, and then it went down for a while. But Jack always used to say it might as well just be a sock with a couple of buttons.
That was about the time that Mel Brooks hired him to do Elephant Man, and then his life changed.
Came into the office. When he came in, I looked beyond him. I thought that maybe this kid that came in was a messenger or something, because he wore a little leather jacket, and I'll never forget his shirt was always buttoned. He always wore kind of a white shirt. One of the first to do this insane thing. It was always buttoned here. It was kind of weird. No tie, just a shirt, buttoned. And he sat, and he had a lot of R's. He said, "It's a pleasure to meet you, sir." A lot of R's, like a Midwestern kid. Scared me. I expected to meet a young Max Reinhardt. I expected the guy to have, like Picasso, 2 eyes on one side of his nose. And here is a young Charles Lindbergh. He looked just like Charles Lindbergh. He says, "We just have to move things because I have to think about directing it. Not the screenplay, but the movie." Good talk. So I said, "You're hired." I hired him right then and there.
I've known him obviously as a movie director and as a writer and all sorts of different things. And I've admired his work. And so when the Turner Cohn Gallery put up a show of his photographs, I was curious. Lynch's style is difficult to, I think, pinpoint. It's a combination of the sexiness of them, the glamour of them, the seductiveness of them. It's sort of wonderful, traditional glamour photography / nude photography or erotic photography, but with an edge that I've never seen before, a dark edge, a noir edge, if you will. It's scopophilic. It's the lust to look and to stare at things that you wouldn't normally be caught staring at.
Well, mostly I like it. I'm especially excited about the paintings on paper, which I call it a tensile strength. And I'd seen at least part of the work that he'd shown at James Corcoran a couple of years ago. And I found the one thing I wanted from that work was a kind of more distinct structure. And it's exactly what I get in these. And I find them really, really exciting to look at.
People do many different things. And this is some of the different things that I do.
You're not forced to be an artist being his son or daughter, but not only because he is one, but as you see how much he loves it, it sort of draws you towards there to express yourself, and not only express yourself, but to see if you like it more than in a household with a lawyer maybe. And you get a chance to say, well, you like it or you don't, but because he's an artist himself, you get more of a chance to try things out and stuff like that.
And also, I think both of us a lot of the time we spend, the majority of our time with Dad is in the garage making stuff or on the set working or painting or, building little things out of clay. He's an ant wrangler. He's a doggone ant wrangler.
I am an ant wrangler, and ants are, as we all know, tireless, workers. So if you get a project that they can do, they'll do it. And there's no questions asked. No unions.
To this day, an ant in the kitchen is escorted outside and put in a safe place.
Yes.
I'm not sure what it's called. Maybe meat as a face with a bird and a rat. And it's a slab of roast beef that I was sort of hoping would get some action with decaying and possibly some, maggots. But right now it's just alive with these little ants. I like the organic textures of it. And it needs to be looked at just like anything else. The ants were doing fine. They didn't hurt anything. But I had a whole section of maggots that was lifted one night by somebody, some animal.
For him, the doing is the joy. Sure, the product is, important, but he's very inspiring to me because the act of creating is what he so cherishes, and I think that makes every day and everything you make more important.
Luckily, David is able to vent everything through his art, because otherwise somebody might be dead.
Might be a little too far over there. Okay. Many of the things that you subconsciously use in painting, you use in film. But I don't think about it so much as feel it.
Nerd! Hey!
What do you want?
Aspirin. My head. Hey. Hey.
Production design is it's mood, it's things that have to be correct, dictated by the script.
Creating the prison, for example, the death row prison. Now here's a prime example of how the director and the production designer work. When we scouted that place, it's a fire station building. And you walk into that place and you say to yourself, somebody's lost their mind. They want to shoot a death row prison at this place. I mean, we all have our own imaginations of what death row should look like. I mean, death row is death row, as we all know to be. And then they build the sets and you arrive there the very first day of the shoot and it's phenomenal. It looks beautiful. It's death row, and yet it's not a death row. It's a David Lynch death row, which is what he wanted.
I collaborate with Patty the same way with everybody else, and it's a process of getting everybody tuned in to the same thing. I've worked with Patty since The Elephant Man. She knows by now things I like, and we talk a lot and look at photos or drawings or whatever it takes to get the idea, and then next thing I know it's there. Patty does not like to be photographed.
You can roll tape. You can roll tape. Patty, come and hold on a second. Get me a chair here. Patty, you're going to sit here with me.
I don't talk to Patty very much about wardrobe. Patty just has got she always comes up with, the best stuff you can imagine.
Here is Fred's shirt that he wore during the morphing process. Then here's the suit that he wore while he was in prison. Pete's section, his garage, which is a vintage herringbone suit that we went with. Mr. Eddie. Mr. Eddie is a very kind of classy guy. wearing silk ties, silk shirts, boss suits. Then we have Andy, who is our, I guess, one of our resident porno guys. Great t-shirt made out of a football jersey fabric, faux vinyl alligator shirt. Not much blue in this movie. They had decided, Patricia and David, not to use blue. Our cops are just, you know, ties, shirts, much like cops are. Renee's wardrobe, a lot of lingerie. Her silhouette is very long. Her shoes are very high and platformed, all to give a longer, leaner silhouette. Then here's Alice. Again, a lot of lingerie. And her silhouette is shorter, sassier, again with very high shoes, but a little bit more body showing.
I think you're out a little bit more. You're kind of against the wall, but out this way more. To your right on that. There you go.
Once the production designer has set this most beautiful thing, the DP has to give justification to it and not just shoot close-ups and have some wide shots so you can see the scope of the design of the production to get the production value, as we call it. You know, it's where the creativity comes into play and you create a look.
I think what distinguishes David from other directors is that his imagination